Okay, you lucky people out there, this is the Midnight Skeptic, and this is my play-in music. You are listening to KPCA LP, Petaluma, California, at 103.3 FM and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. And this is the Midnight Skeptic. The views of the Midnight Skeptic are not necessarily the views of KPCA or any of its affiliates. Okay, this is show number 114, and this is going to be broadcast this coming Sunday on April 2nd, the day after April Fool's Day. Today, as I'm sitting here recording this, this is Tuesday, the 28th of March of 2023, and it will go out on YouTube tonight after I download it to YouTube, but the worldwide KPCA.FM and locally 103.3 FM will be this Sunday, the 2nd. And, it's so good to be woke. It's good to be woke. It's good to be woke in the morning. And the Midnight Skeptic is, in fact, proudly woke. And me, the Midnight Skeptic, am doing my small part to rid this country of GOP MAGA-head Republicans by means of this show. Okay, am I going to change any minds? Well, I hope so, but probably not. I don't think I have any MAGA heads or followers of the orange sociopathic bloat bag that listens to this show. So, in effect, I'm preaching to the choir. Send all hate mail, death threats, etc., to the Midnight Skeptic at gmail.com. If you are a diehard MAGA head and you have time in between your death threats to New York City District Attorney Biggs, well, that's how Republicans roll nowadays. Death threats, hate emails, that's what they're like. Okay, and I'm going to have to catch up on a few items that were left over from last week's show because I ran out of time again. And so let's get the shout-outs out of the way. Okay, Mickey Huff, Nolan Higdon, and I'm doing it without notes, so I'm Andy Lee Roth. Okay, the three guys that are associated with Project Censored, go onto their website and subscribe to their newsletter. It's very interesting, and you might be able to order a book, The State of the Free Press, 2023. They're probably out of signed books by now, but, they're good to have around to keep yourself informed of what things in the news, or should be in the news, that are just not being covered by what they call the mainstream press, or sometimes they call it the legacy press. Okay. Shout outs. And my international people on Anchor has now been either bought or absorbed by Spotify. So I've always been on Spotify, but now they're the primary dissemination outfit worldwide. So I'm on Spotify. And I've still got one dude in Russia that listens, a couple in the UK, a couple in the EU, 3 in Canada, a couple in Australia, New Zealand, and so on. That's my international audience. Okay, locally, Rich and Kathy over in Sebastopol. Rich, take care of yourself, and I hope your back surgery goes real well. Kevin and Lori, Dave and Rosie up in Sacramento, Tom and Nancy, Keith and Cody, going all the way down to Tiburon, Dennis and Megan, and down to Pacifica, Stan and Kathy. Kathy, take care of yourself. I understand that you've had a slip and fall and are going to be laid up for a while. San Francisco, Yvonne Santos and Rick. Again, I'm forgetting the name of Miss Lefty down in Pacifica, friend of Stan and Kathy's. Anyway, L.A., Jackie Kolar, Aunt Jackie, and her 2 daughters, Melanie and Samantha. Over to Arizona, Brother Bran and his wife Mina, their daughter Andrea, nurse, take care of yourself, and her husband Tim and their 3 kids. And Arkansas, Shannon Reed, Florida, Amelia and Nelson and Alice, up to Raleigh-Durham, Dr. Dave Rubin, the most extraordinary lung doctor, pulmonary doctor in the world. And then Long Island, Geraldine Goldfinger, Sonora Crowd, Robert and Colleen Finnegan, Bob and Sandy Fisher, their daughter Martha, who's a nurse, take care, wear your PPE, blah, 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 nag, nag, nag. And Brad, okay, Darl, Judy, Leonidas, Lynn Quayle, Kathy Francis, and then last but not least, down in Mexico City, Rosamalia Negrete Lopez. Okay, that's all the, okay. Oh, John Gleason and his 2 daughters, Tiffany and Jennifer. Okay, they listen in occasionally. Okay. Oh, locally, Art Kutznet and Tim Conrad, right here in Petaluma. Oh, and Tom Gaffey at the Phoenix Theater, and John Crowley at Aquas Cafe, the community that he created around his Aquas Cafe. Okay. I think I got everybody. Okay. Good news. An unnamed parent in Utah's Davis School District asked that the Bible be removed from school shelves for review. Okay? The parent said, I think the Utah legislature and Utah Parents United, or UPU, for making this bad faith process much easier and more efficient. House bill in Utah 374, sponsored by Ken Ivory. He's a Republican, very invested in all this GOP MAGA head book banning efforts. Okay, what did I put down here? Very sad. I can't read my own writing. Okay, Utah Parents United, the book banners in Utah. Brooke Stevens, she's the self-anointed curriculum director. Sounds impressive. She's not. Curriculum director of Utah Parents United. House bill in Utah, 374 requires public K through 12 schools to remove books containing pornographic or indecent material. And who decides what is pornographic or indecent? I'm sure Brooke Stevens would want to be the one to decide. She's a Republican, of course. Republican criticisms of free lunches in our nation's schools are of two kinds. The fees serve as an important pedagogical, I have trouble pronouncing that word, pedagogical function in society, making kids.
But it either isn't available or can't be played right now.
Oh, that was my Google Assistant. Okay. Function in society, making kids and people understand personal responsibility, which is a questionable proposition in and of itself. And number two, since lunch fees are means tested, whether the parents are well off or not, these fees serve an important income redistributive function in society. And this is at odds with the normal GOP belief world. They don't want wealth to be redistributed. Rich people are rich people because they work harder, they are smarter, they're more Christian. So the GOP is all for helping the rich keep their money and not tax it, and they don't want income redistributed. Okay, so lunch fees that are means tested goes against their philosophy. Free school bus service and schooling services and after school clubs are free. They're not means tested or thought of by the MAGA heads as teaching personal responsibility with the money. And that's not part of wealth redistribution, and it should be done in other ways, I think, not on the backs of kids. All right. I said I was going to catch up on a few things that I ran out of time to cover last week. So here it is. All right. Okay. Just like Florida's Parental Rights in Education Act, HB 1557, which has been named the Don't Say Gay bill. It went into effect July 1st of 2022. Instruction and discussion of sexual orientation is mentioned in the bill twice, and gender identity also mentioned twice in HB 1557. And I've been involved peripherally in education since, in the late 70s. I went through a elementary teaching credential program at Lone Mountain College in San Francisco. And when I met my wife and we lived in San Francisco for a while, I never did really go into teaching, but we moved up to Petaluma here and started a private tutoring business, which I got involved in the afternoons and early evenings. So, and in fact, I still have 3 tutoring students even now. My wife passed away in 2013. And I enjoy tutoring so much that I just kept the business alive. Well, I'm not going out chasing down any new business, but they seek me out now. And in fact, earlier at 1 o'clock, it's about 4 o'clock right now. At 1 o'clock, I had a tutoring student. This is spring break week, but he came here anyway to kind of catch up on some math assignments. Anyway, that's way off the topic. What I was going to talk about is children, how they learn, who teaches them. Okay, children learn more from being around adults and their attitudes and their body language and their word choices than actual curriculum in the classroom. Believe it. Parents and teachers give themselves way too much credit for imparting knowledge to kids, whether their own kids or in their classroom kids or whatever. Kids learn more, way more, outside the classroom and outside the home. And this word gay is just a distraction, trumped up by Republicans, of course. Okay, in this bill's preamble, and the bill in question is the aforementioned Florida House Bill 1557. In this bill's preamble, it says the aim is to prohibit, quote unquote, classroom discussion about sexual orientation or gender identity, unquote. But later, the actual bill states that classroom instruction by school personnel or third-person parties, on sexual orientation or gender identity may not occur. Well, it does, whether you want it to. By the way, I mean MAGA heads instead of you. It's instruction talking about discussion of is going to occur whether or not MAGA heads want it to occur. Life doesn't get put on hold when a kid leaves a classroom. It just doesn't. And they learn from each other, from adults that aren't aware that kids are watching them when listening to them. They learn whether or not teachers are there talking lesson plans right at them. They see teachers outside the classroom. Life doesn't stop. Instruction never stops. Kids are like sponges. They sometimes soak up things that, well, some adults may not really want them to soak up, but they do. And they are not innocent like Republican Christian nationalists would like us to think. Okay, I'm off my notes again, as you can probably tell. So in my notes say, so what is instruction? How is a teacher to answer a student's question about how same-sex couples marry each other? Kids shouldn't hear about that. Is the teacher teaching about what the Constitution says, or what Supreme Court decisions have been, or teaching about sexual orientation, or what? You just ignore all of those things. You don't answer the kid's question. You act all embarrassed when they come up to your desk as a teacher and point at your picture of your female teacher, her girlfriend's picture. Who is that, Mrs. Brown? What's she supposed to say? She's my fiancée. We're going to get married. She's my girlfriend. Or should a teacher just lie to the kids? That never works. Okay, off my notes yet again. That didn't take me long this time. Banned from K through third grade, or that is not age appropriate. I'm talking about those discussions and instruction. And what is age appropriate? Do you know a single GOP MAGA head Republican that could even answer that question? That even want to answer that question? No, they are the most ignorant group of politicians that ever tried to rule a country. I want to say govern a country, but they don't have any interest in governing. Okay, boy, am I ranting today. Okay, what is age appropriate? In Florida, the act has now been increased from pre-K, that means pre-kindergarten, through 8th grade. And that is House Bill in Florida 1223. They weren't satisfied with K through 3. They want to increase it to K through 8th grade. Okay, sex, quote unquote, in this bill means the binary division of individuals based on reproductive function. They are trying their best to erase transgender kids from this country. Just erase them, make them go away. Everything is either black or white. Either Jesus approves or it's a sin. There's no in between. I've imitated what my thoughts are about MAGA head GOP politicians. Okay, here's the binary. If you got a pee-pee between your legs, then you a boy. If you've got a wooey between your legs, then you a girl. God don't make no mistakes. You're either a boy or you're a girl. Ain't no in between. All right. That's my stupid imitation of a Christian nationalist, MAGA head, GOP Southern politician. Yeah, okay. Off my notes. Also, a war on pronouns. Also, parents must be notified as of July 1st of this year. Schools cannot prohibit notifying a parent about a student's mental, emotional, or physical well-being. School district personnel may not discourage parental notification of parents. A student may not be asked pronouns, what they would prefer as pronouns. Pronouns must correspond to a student's binary sex. This is all just a fake moral panic to get votes, to keep MAGA head GOP Republican politicians in power. That's all this is. And essentially, we have, since 2014 or 2015, the orange sociopathic bloat bag has been responsible for this outburst of ignorant moral panicking amongst Republicans. Okay, this is still from last week. Things that GOP MAGA head Republicans reflexively shout out when things don't work out for them. Okay, number one, the radical left. Okay, which means, to me, kind and compassionate. They don't like that. George Soros. Okay, he's in their opinion, the left-wing equivalent of the Koch brothers. They aren't brothers anymore. There's only one left, and I can't remember whether it's David Koch or the other one that kicked off. It's also them invoking George Soros all the times is their, I think they consider themselves safe in being anti-Semitic when it comes to listing George Soros, who is a Hungarian billionaire. He doesn't live in Hungary anymore because that country, unfortunately, has taken a extreme radical right-wing turn. Sips. Okay, here's another one. Antifa, they're coming for us. They're armed and dangerous. They were behind the January 6th mess. Okay, Antifa is just, I don't know who came up with that term. I'm going to have to do a segment on a future show about that, but it's just a group of people, I believe they were either in Portland or Seattle, that came out in opposition to right-wing militias, disturbances over there. I don't know who called them Antifa. Maybe they call themselves that. I don't know. But they are not a nationwide or even statewide organized group. Nancy Pelosi, evil. Okay, she has a legacy of actual competence in how to run the U.S. House of Representatives. She got things done, which they don't like. Okay. Socialism. They shout this anytime the government tries to help less well-off people. Communism. That's shouted by MAGA head GOP Republicans who wouldn't even know who Karl Marx or Frederick Engels was, let alone having read their works or studied it in college, for those few who did go to college. Grooming! Okay, anytime a teacher says to a student, little Becky, little Ralph likes to have his hair grow long, and occasionally he'll wear a dress. Just accept it. It's his choice. It's no big deal. You're grooming him. All right. CRT. Anything that is mentioned in a classroom of any size, any grade, that concerns not being racist, studying the situation of blacks in this country. It's CRT. Okay, indoctrinating kids. Have you become aware of Sunday schools in Christian nationalist churches, and they're singing these kiddie songs? Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. And then I don't know of all the other kid religious songs, but if that's not indoctrinating, I don't know what is. Godless, which refers to all Democrats. Democrats and atheists are one and the same to MAGA heads. Protecting our kids. They're protecting our kids from knowledge. Republicans will not protect our kids from the gun industry, the NRA. And then last on this list, we're pro-life. Don't let them get away with that. They are pro-women's subjugation, if not outright slavery. At least their uteruses. Okay. Whew. It burns off calories, ranting. Okay. I recommend it as an exercise regimen. I don't get much exercise otherwise. Okay. Good news. This was supposed to end the show last week. Seaweed is being researched and used more and more. Cattle feed to reduce methane emissions. I talked about this almost a year ago. There's been research done up at UC Davis, which is just up Highway 80 from here. And they found that dried and powdered seaweed added to cattle feed does, in fact, reduce methane emissions from cattle. And I guess it would from other livestock as well. Okay. And then another thing seaweed can be used for is for a plastic substitute for containers and to replace food takeout boxes. Okay, there's a company called Netpla, capital N. Oh, it's not net, it's Notpla. Okay, capital N-O-T, capital P-L-A, company in London has come up with edible containers that also can be biodegradable in landfills, but care must be taken to not over-farm or over-harvest seaweed. Okay, that's always a problem, because if both of these endeavors, cattle feed and plastic substitute, come to fruition on a scale that will be truly methane reducing, you have to be careful about not overdoing it as far as harvesting it from the oceans and farming it artificially. Okay. What? Okay. I'm switching notebooks now. That was the last page of the last notebook from last week, and now I'm back on. Oh. Okay. Bear with me. I'm getting my place back. Okay. I agree with this good news. It's a new topic. The World Athletics Council, which governs track and field, as of March 31st, that's 3 days from now. Okay, on March 31st, 2023, has barred transgender women athletes from competitions if they transitioned from male to female after going through puberty as a male. Now, the trans community, whoever's of them that are listening to this rant, probably disagree with me and might be pissed off at me, but I agree with this. once a male, and a good example would be Leah Thomas, the swimmer from Penn, who won all sorts of competitions after she transitioned from male to female when she was about 19 or 20. Wow. Anyway, if a guy is suffering gender dysphoria and decides after he's begun puberty as a boy, bones get stronger, muscles grow bigger, your Adam's apple is more prominent. Anyway, after puberty sets in my opinion, it's too late to transition athletically to then compete on girls' sports teams. Okay, anyway, the World Athletics Council agrees with me. And I've talked about that, specifically Leah Thomas and this puberty transition. I've talked about it on a number of occasions within this last year. Okay, FINA, the World Governing Body for Swimming, has banned transgender women unless they have transitioned before any part of male puberty before Tanner stage 2 or age 12. Okay, what is Tanner staging? That is a medical term for signs of puberty in both females and males, but we're talking about males here. Tanner staging, or sexual maturity rating, SMR. Doctors will know what this is who are concerned with adolescent health and puberty. SMR is an objective classification that medical personnel use to track the development of children during puberty with secondary sex characteristics. In males, the onset of puberty ranges from 9 to 14 years of age. Tanner 2 is onset of gonadarche. I'll spell that for you. GONADARCHE. I think it's similar to menarche for women. Gonadarche, which is enlarged testes, downy hair above your genitals, and there's an actual measurement of the male testes, 4 milliliters to 8 milliliters in volume, or penis lengthening. Okay, those are all signs of Tanner 2. Okay, after that sets in, okay, no more being able to compete on women's sports teams. Okay, I agree with that. Okay, the IOC, International Olympic Committee, has left it up to individual sports governing bodies to set rules for transgender women's participation. I, the Midnight Skeptic, agree with the World Athletics Council's new rule. After male puberty sets in, trans women should not compete on women's teams or events. I wish them well in their transitioning if they are suffering from gender dysphoria, and try to ignore Republicans as best you can and all of the stupid laws that Republican-controlled states are foisting off on all of us. I wish them very much happiness in their lives. Athletic organizations try to use science and objectivity in their rulings to try to achieve fairness and as much inclusiveness as possible. Well, the Republicans will never go for that. They don't care about fairness. They don't care about inclusiveness. Exclude them. Just make them go away. I'm imitating a Republican talking about transgender people and kids. All right. GOP MAGA heads in the U.S., the politicians just use ignorance, fear, and hate to stir up their MAGA head base. Okay, now in the IOC's latest ruling, testosterone levels below 2.5 nanomoles per liter is the cutoff point. And Olympic athletes who generate doubts about their actual gender have to get tested. Okay. And they have to test their testosterone levels below 2.5 nanomoles per liter for females or trans females. Not all females are trans females. And we're talking about Caster Semenya here, the South African sprinter. She has gone through a lot for love of her sport. Okay, right now, there are no current trans females in FINA. That's the swimming group, as of 3/23. Okay, there's no current World Athletics trans women in competitive events. Okay, my notes are, when I get down to the end of the page, I try to squeeze as much as I can in my notes. If you want to Google more information about this, go to Athlete Ally. Okay, ATHLETEALLY. And look up Dr. Veronica Ivy, who is herself transgender. And they talk a little bit about an intersex condition, 46XY DSD. Okay, now the DSD part stands for something sexual development. Oh boy, I should have written that down, but DSD, differences in sexual development. Okay, where am I? Am I speaking literally or figuratively? New topic. Are you kidding me? Bad news? The MAGA-head GOP-led House of Representatives passed, and it's not going anywhere. They're just patting themselves on the back. Passed the so-called Parents' Bill of Rights Act. That's House Bill 5. Now look it up. Okay, they're trying to replicate Florida nationwide. Fortunately, it won't get past the Senate, or President Biden wouldn't sign it anyway. So, okay. Parents' Bill of Rights Act nationwide. Among other things, it would require classroom curricula publicly available. Well, what's wrong with that? Okay. It's just opening the door for the lowest common denominator of MAGA parents to, I don't want my kids reading about how we were mean to blacks, how we enslaved them, how we killed off the Indians, how we passed the Chinese Exclusion Act back in the 1890s. We're a great Christian nation. We don't do wrong things. Okay. It just opens the door for silliness. And it would be more silliness if it weren't so serious. Man, my throat is drying out quickly. I need a sip. This is grape juice, by the way, not coffee or wine. Okay. Among other things, it would require classroom curricula to be publicly available and provide parents with a list of reading materials in school libraries. Mr. Runaway, Josh Hawley, he's a Republican MAGA head. Remember him? He's the guy that raised his fist in support of the January 6th insurrectionists. Okay. And then ran away when the gang of insurrectionist MAGA heads actually did take over our Capitol building. Run, Josh, run. He was a Marine? Huh. The GOP MAGA head Republicans want to turn over our kids' education to the lowest common denominators in the U.S. And by that I mean the MAGA head parents. Okay, new topic. Okay, this is bad news. A Florida charter school principal, says she was forced to resign after parents, the lowest common denominators, complained about a Renaissance art lesson in which images of Michelangelo's David were shown to students. Tallahassee Classical School on Monday, on the 20th of this month, gave Hope Karaskilya an ultimatum: resign or be fired. The school board chair, Barney Bishop, of course he's a Republican, and he's a lobbyist and a MAGA defascist supporter, wouldn't state why Karaskilya was fired, but it was after 3 parents objected to the lesson featuring David, the statue, and the statue Creation of Adam to the 6th grade students. And this Tallahassee Classical School is modeling itself after the Christian Nationalist College Hillsdale curriculum. I've mentioned Hillsdale's. I'm going to have to really delve more into Hillsdale. Anyway, they're this fundamentalist evangelical college up in, I think it's either Minnesota or Wisconsin, that is the model for Florida's schools, according to Ron DeSantis, meatball guy. Again, let me say that Ron DeSantis, I wish your wife would have more of a hand in picking out your suits. You're barely able to squeeze in them. You look like a Italian sausage on the grill that's bursting out of its casings. Jeez. Okay. Bishop. Okay, now Bishop. Barney Bishop, in a Slate interview, said that parents, rather than trained educators, would dictate what is taught in Florida schools. If that doesn't frighten you into voting out all Republicans, I don't know what it's going to take. So, if the MAGA head GOP has its way, education will be left to the lowest common denominator, the followers of the orange sociopathic bloat bag, the ignorant, hateful deplorables, as Hillary Clinton called them, armed with AK-47s and not books. I don't know why I wrote this down here, but at the very bottom of the page, Utah Parents United. I mean, I know who they are. I just talked about them. Sheriff's report on May 5th of 22. A pornography complaint. I don't know what I meant to say about that. Okay. New topic. The soul. Do we all have one? Do animals have them? Do plants have them, for that matter? Like Justice Potter Stewart's non-definition of pornography, which this is a quote from him, I may not be able to define it, but I know it when I see it, unquote. The soul cannot be seen, touched, heard, tasted, or smelled, but certain people seem to agree that they know it when they imagine it. And they imagine it in everyone, not just themselves, but they believe that everybody on earth has one, whether or not a non-soul believing person admits to having one. I would say to a Christian, I don't believe in the existence of a soul. I don't have one. Well, they would say, yes, you do. Okay. Cartesian dualism is now a dead issue philosophically. Mind is not distinct from body. Mental activity derives strictly from our brains, our neurons. Our thoughts, our desires, our memories are in there. And there is no self, with a capital S, apart from them. But for Christians to be threatened by eternal damnation for sinning, there has to be a something to be punished, or to be damned, or cast into hell, the fiery pit of hell. But none of this is real, thankfully. Okay. That's my little take on the Christian concept of soul and hell and damnation. Okay. New topic, bad quack doctor news. The Midnight Skeptic, for more than a year now, has called out Florida's Surgeon General, Joseph Ladapo, appointed by Rhonda Fascist, as a quack. Now, the CDC and the FDA have finally come out and accused Ladapo, capital Ladipo, of being bad at his job and repeatedly spread falsehoods about mRNA vaccines for COVID-19, that they are linked to an increased risk of cardiac-related death in males ages 18 to 39. The study, such as it was not peer-reviewed, and some tipster alleged that Ladapo had manipulated data and committed, are you ready for this? Scientific fraud. I think the tipster is right. And I can see where he would want to be anonymous, because the wrath of the MAGA heads will come down on him or her. I don't know who it was. Scientific fraud to arrive at this false conclusion. Okay, America's frontline doctors are all quacks. Joseph Ladapo, you are a quack. And not only that, not only are they quacks, but they're also grifters, especially Simone Gold. I guess Dr. Simone Gold. She was the founder of America's Frontline Doctors, and she is a worshiper of the orange sociopathic bloat bag. All of the America's Frontline Doctors are essentially MAGA heads. I think I might get close to the correct time. Okay, bad news from MAGA land. The lowest common denominators. GOP MAGA head Republican ignorant fearful parent update. Children should not be exposed to anything that the most bigoted, fearful parent on their schools. Most bigoted, fearful parents in their school objects to. To do otherwise would be to violate the so-called rights of parents. The parents whose rights get so much GOP concern are assumed to be white and Republican. The right in question is to control not just one's own children, but other people's children, and the very idea that education is a public good. In Pinellas County, Florida, capital Pinellas, in Pinellas County, Florida, a Disney-made movie from 1998 and shown in Pinellas County schools for years about Ruby Bridges has been removed after one parent, Emily Conklin, capital Conklin, complained that it might cause white kids to learn that white people hate black people. The school is North Shore Elementary. It sent permission slips home to parents so that they could have their kids opt out of seeing this film if the parents wished. A few days later, a parent of a second grader, Emily Conklin, filed a formal complaint. This is her quote. The scenes of white people threatening and shouting racial slurs at a little black girl, she wrote in the complaint, could teach students that white people hate black people. Just Republicans hate black people. Okay. In response, county school officials banned the showing of the movie at North Shore until a review committee, what a euphemism, reviews it. Other schools in the district can still show it. Okay, I've got to play my out music. I'm running out of time. You have been listening to The Midnight Skeptic on KPCA LP, Petaluma, California. And we're at 103.3 on the FM dial and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. Support community radio at patreon.com/Petaluma Community Access. And remember, think critically, think logically, but live joyously, and most importantly, pet your cats. Okay, that was 58 minutes, so I'm in about 20 seconds. I've been cut off, but please, 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 pet your cats. And I will be ranting again on April 2nd at you, but the YouTube will be tonight, on YouTube tonight, probably about 7 or 8 o'clock. Okay? See you next week. Hey, yo, Dennis.